Have you ever wondered how faces are animated that use flat textures instead of a deforming mesh? Well, what if I told you that the initial setup is much less daunting than it sounds?
If you're new here, hi, I'm Skitty. Today, we're going to learn how to set up animatable textures using set-driven keys. And with that, let's get started.
For our example today, I'm going to use a model of Red from Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. Since he's a rip from the games, he came with a single texture for his eye positions that looks like this. Textures like this are usually used when animating the position of the UVs, so first we will need to make some changes to this for our setup. If I select the UV shell for his eyes and take a look in the UV editor, we can see the default position for his eyes works with the eye texture on the top left. So what we need to do is bring this texture into Photoshop or whatever other program you're comfortable with, and save individual textures with each eye position in the top left slot. That way they will all line up with the current UVs.
Hi, Editor Skitty here, realizing I forgot to mention something pretty important. If you're making your own character and not just using a random game rip off the internet, you can completely ignore this step because you can just set up your own textures to be one texture per eye position. So if that's the case, ignore what I just said and just continue with the rest of the tutorial.
When saving these in whatever program you're using, make sure to use the same name on all of them and a numbered sequence Maya will understand. Once you have all of those saved out, we can jump back into Maya. So the way setting-driven keys works, we're going to end up with a keyable attribute in the channel box with a drop-down menu including all the textures we want. So I like to create a controller first that will hold these options for us. So let's go up to Create, NURBS Primitives, Circle. Scale that to the rig and hold V on your keyboard to translate snap it to his head joint, and I'm going to rename mine head_control. Don't forget to delete the controller's history and freeze its transformations. Next would be adding this controller to your rigging setup. All I'm going to do is select the controller, Shift select the head joint, and in the rigging tab, go to the constrain menu and hit parent. All this did was make our new controller the driver for the head joint. If we were making a full rig, I would select the neck controller, Shift select the head control, and go to constrain parent again. That way the neck control will drive this new controller's motion. Now that the controller is set up, let's go to the material attributes for the eyes. The easiest way to get there is to select the UV shell of the eyes, right click, and select material attributes. Next, click on the arrow beside color. Click on the file folder to change the texture to the first image in your new sequence, and then check the box beside Use Image Sequence. By default, this option wants to play an animated sequence of all of your frames, so you'll see them cycle through if you scrub the timeline. Don't worry though, all we have to do is right-click on image number and click Delete Expression. The number box should change back to its default color, since purple indicates there's an expression being used. Now let's jump back to the controller, and at the top of the channel box, select Edit and Add Attribute. This is going to be what shows up in the channel box to swap textures, so pick a name that makes sense for what you're adding. I'm going to call mine Eye Position. Make sure it's set to be keyable, and then we're going to change the data type to enum. This is what will let us have multiple options. So under enum names, type in the names of all the different textures you have. For red, it will be open, halfway, closed, and look right. Once it looks good, click Add. Now our controller has a list of options that don't yet do anything, so let's hook those up. Select the UV shell again, go back into the material attributes where we set the image sequence, right-click on image sequence, and select Set Driven Key. This is where we're going to tell the head controller to control the texture swapping, so select the controller and go to Load, Selected as Driver. Now making sure eye position on the driver and frame extension on the driven stays selected every time we make a key, we're going to select the controller in this menu to make sure the eye position is set to open, and select the texture to make sure the frame extension is set to the proper number for the open position, and then hit Key. That's it. The open position is done. So now let's do the same for the others. We'll set the eye position to halfway, set the frame extension to 2, and set a key. Set the eye position to closed, frame extension to 3, and key. Eye position to look right, frame extension to 4, and key. And just like that, all of our drop-down options are set to the proper textures and we can key out a blink for red. Leave a comment below if there's something you didn't understand. Like and subscribe if you learned something. Links to socials are in the description, and remember to always use a reference.
Oh, and for those of you wondering why I haven't uploaded in a while, she's why.